Hey everybody, it's me, Kenan Jerome Floyd, with another episode of Dangerously Awkward. This episode, we're going to talk about the alleged assault of Jussie Smollett in Chicago, and I want to have two conversations concerning this situation. The first one is, why are crimes like this taking place in 2019? And the second one is, why can't we ask questions? So please sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of Dangerously Awkward. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dangerously Awkward. I appreciate your support. If you haven't already, you can go to my YouTube, and my YouTube is KJF Network. Like and subscribe, because the more followers and likes, the happier I'll be. And also, you can go to my Instagram and follow me at Dangerously Awkward. Now, this alleged assault that took place in Chicago on Empire actor Jussie Smollett, it spawns two different conversations in my head. And unfortunately, these two conversations contradict each other. The first conversation is, why are we experiencing crimes of this nature in 2019? And also, why can't we ask questions about the authenticity of the details of the story? Now, like I said, these conversations, they contradict each other. I'm trying to take the middle of the road approach. I'm not for or against anybody in this conversation. I just want to look at the facts and look at what's going on in the media. First of all, I would like to say I'm glad that Jussie is doing well. He's back home now. I'm very sorry that this even happened. Even if it wasn't to white Trump supporters or anything like that, just the fact that a person is attacked because of their sexual orientation and or their race in 2019 is baffling. The question we really need to ask ourselves in the society is, where are these seeds of hate being planted? Is it one generation teaching the next generation to continue this cycle? Is it the media encouraging people to act this way? Are these people trolls? Are they trying to go against the system? Are they anarchists? Are they trying to go against some type of narrative? These are different questions that we need to ask ourselves as a society, of why these things continue to happen. Because it's not just this; it's the Charlottesville riots. A young lady was killed by a man in his car, just because he felt like it. All the shootings and stuff that are happening across the country, and it's really scary to think that even now, still in 2019, because there's something about you that you can't change, someone can hate you for that and are willing to cause you harm for that. So I mean, that's what's striking the most about the story in general. I've spoken to different people who believe that there is some type of agenda that's going on in the country right now, a type of narrative that people are trying to push. And some feel that the way to combat this narrative is to take action, physical action. And I think that stems from the divide that's being perpetrated amongst us. And that's really, essentially, that's really what the truth is. I mean, you think about, according to the story, these two men went up to this actor from Empire. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Fox, directed by Lee Daniels, or created by Lee Daniels. Jussie Smollett plays a homosexual black character on the show. And it goes through the turmoil and stuff of being a young gay black man with a staunchly gangsta black father. That's initially what it is Lee Daniels took his own experience from his childhood and he put it into this character. So that's the character that Jussie plays on the show. But in real life, he is also a homosexual black man. And The story is interesting because before the two men attacked Jussie Smollett, they said, "Hey, aren't you the faggot empire nigga from Fox?" And then they took bleach or some type of chemical substance, threw it on him, and then put a noose around his neck, and then said, "This is MAGA country," and they bounced. So just thinking about that, that's some throwback old school racist shit. That's the noose. That's taking it right out of the book of Robert E. Lee. You know what I mean? Like it's something that doesn't belong. It's an act that doesn't belong in this so-called progressive society that we live in. So when we see things like that continue to happen, we need to really ask ourselves as a society, are we as good as we think we are? Because a lot of times people, they compare ourselves to other, well, at least we're not living in Syria where you got a blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, being black in America isn't a walk in the park either. I mean, yes, slavery's not happening. We could still sit at the same lunch counters together, even though lunch counters really aren't a thing anymore. We can drink out of the same water fountains, even though water fountains really aren't a thing anymore. We don't have to ride in the back of the bus, even though I prefer riding in the back of the bus because no one messes with you. Well, no, actually, that's not true. I rode the bus a few times. There's some crazy people that sit in the back of the bus. But at least we're not. At least the law isn't making us segregate ourselves. And that's really the key point. It's the law. The law says we don't have to segregate ourselves. But that doesn't mean society doesn't segregate itself. Because, there's plenty of neighborhoods that have discriminatory practices that keep people of color out of the neighborhood. And there's loopholes where they're able to maintain that. I think that a lot of these safe spaces that people talk about, you look in these safe spaces and you say, well, it's for people that want to feel safe, but it's normally people of the same race or whatever. So it's like, why don't you just call it for what it is? It's still segregation, but there's using different words now. People are justifying the reasons why they don't feel comfortable around certain people. And we're essentially still doing the same thing that we were doing back in the 50s. So when you ask yourself the question, well, how much progress have we made as a country? Have we really made any progress? Does people still feel uncomfortable around other people that are different than them? And from that comes fear. People have fear of what they don't know. So when you actually have hate crime like this, someone being attacked because they're black, because they're gay, it's shocking, but it's not surprising, because we haven't gotten rid of those feelings yet. And now, since everyone has the internet, you're able to pretty much pick up the pieces and put it together and figure out where people are coming from. It's like if one person says this, you're going to have a troll that says, well, you know what? I don't believe that. And then they come back to them and say, they come back with the rebuttal, which is just the total opposite of what the other person has. So then you get this tension that builds up. You get this tension that builds up amongst people of different values and different, and it's happening on both sides. I'm talking if we look at the political spectrum, each political spectrum, they hate each other because of the values that they hold. They don't agree on each other's values, so they feel that that's enough to warrant some type of divide that they're perpetrating. Simple as that. So then now you come to the hate crimes. You come to men that don't get laid going into yoga studios and shooting women. And then you get Charlottesville. You get the attack on Jussie Smollett because he's gay, because he's black. Because, to be honest with you, we've never gotten rid of these embedded feelings, seeds of hate. We've never gotten rid of that. And I don't have the answer to how to get rid of it. I mean, it almost seems like it's still going to be there. I mean, race discrimination is still on the bottom of the totem pole right now as far as progress is concerned, as far as litigation, as far as change, because there are people of color that are still being discriminated against through legislation, through law, through gentrification, and it's just not really changing too much. So I think that's one of the reasons why we still have crimes like this in 2019, because I don't think we've really made a lot of progress as a country as far as accepting one another for who we are. I mean, we have, yes and no. We're moving in the right direction, but we still have a long ways to go. The next conversation I think we need to have about the Jussie Smollett is, why can't we ask questions about the authenticity of the story? Now, the reason this contradicts is because this gives a lot of fuel to people that try to downplay what happened to this man. Now, I don't want you to sit there and think, well, you were saying it, but I was thinking it. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, we should be allowed to question the authenticity of a story that comes from the media, because it helps us distinguish what's true and what's false, and that determines how we react to the story. And that's actually important because it prevents us from responding to the dog whistles that are placed, I believe, that are placed in media that kind of foment this hateful feeling that we get between us and someone that's different than us. Because that's essentially what's happening. People are arguing on social media right now. There's an argument going on between the LGBT community and the black community right now on this situation now, because of how the media is flipping the story. Now let's go through a few of the facts, right? Some people feel that the authenticity of the story is just a little off based on some of the details, right? For the first part is that Jussie Smollett received a threatening mail in Los Angeles before he went to Chicago. And allegedly the story is he received a terroristic letter, a threat on his life, with a white powder in the envelope, which some people thought was supposed to look like anthrax, right? Jussie did not file a police report or a report with the FBI after this happened, which he could have, because if you send mail with a terroristic threat over state lines, and also if you have a chemical substance in it that could cause harm to others, that's a federal crime. That's a federal crime, and it's also a felony. So he had all the reason to call the LAPD and to call the FBI and have them investigate this suspicious package that he got in the mail. He didn't file a police report or anything like that, right? So he knew that there was a threat out for his life. That's one part of the story. So after that, he went to Chicago to shoot some scenes on location for Empire. And he's in this hotel. And this is at the same time that the Arctic vortex was coming down through the north, the north part of the country. And allegedly at 2 a.m., that's when he was hungry. He wanted to go get Subway, which there's deep dish. But anyway, This is, whatever. He wanted to go get Subway at 2 a.m. in the morning when it was negative 2 or 3 degrees outside. Right? So he left his hotel without his security because he knew that there was a threat on his life. So for some reason, he didn't walk around with his security. He left without security. And these two men were either walking around or waiting for him at 2 a.m. in the morning in negative 2 degrees. And they had bleach and they had a rope waiting for him so they could attack him. So prior to this, Jussie, he posted on Instagram that he was going to Chicago, after the terrorist threat. Then he leaves the house at 2 a.m., negative 2 degrees. So I've talked to friends from Chicago, and there's a lot of my friends from Chicago are like, why would you? They asked the question, why would you leave at 2 a.m. in the morning in negative 2 degrees? Like, why would you? It's cold. Like, you're rich. Why don't you Postmates or DoorDash or something? You could have it delivered, or why go to Subway? There's deep dish. And initially what's happening is the stance is now you're either for or against. Like, if you question the authenticity of the story, for some reason you're against him. But if you support him 100%, then you're for him. But that's not really the case at all. Like, you can be against hate crimes, but you can also question. You can also question the authenticity of the story. And it's important to do that because what ends up happening is a cry wolf story. And that's initially what's happening in the media now. There's been a few cry wolf stories as far as racism is concerned, so that when real racism happens, people question the authenticity of the real racism. Like, that's happened to me. I've had racist stuff happen to me, and I've had people not believe me. And it's frustrating. Like, I absolutely understand Jussie's position of, he was attacked, he was scared for his life and all that stuff. And then just to have a bunch of people not believe him. Like, I 100% get it. I agree. It's frustrating. But you can't be upset when people want to question it's like people want to see facts. People want to see facts first before they jump on the bandwagon and they jump on board. And the media has done this a few times within the last few years. And it's been at the expense of black people. The cry wolf of racism has been at the expense of black people. I'll give you a few examples. The first one, in 2018, there was a story that was flown around the internet concerning the movie Black Panther. And accordingly, it said that black women wanted to boycott Black Panther because Michael B. Jordan was allegedly dating a white woman. That turned out to be false. And a lot of people, fortunately, were able to see that story was false. But it seemed like that it was a story dropped by I don't know who, the Russians or whatever, that was trying to ignite a fight in the black community. Why? Story number 2. In California and Los Angeles, there was a 91-year-old man that was beaten with a brick near death. He survived, fortunately, near death. But when the news article came out, first it was, he was beaten by racist Trump supporters. So everyone was all riled up. Oh, my goodness. Look at these Trump supporters are out here beating up Mexicans, old Mexicans. We need to stop these Trump supporters. So we're all emotional. We're all emotional about this situation. Yeah, we got these Trump supporters now. They're out here beating up old Mexicans.
Who picks up a brick and beats a 91-year-old man over the head with it while shouting, "Go back to your country"? Well, I'll tell you who does. Insane, racist right-wingers encouraged by the current administration.
And then it turned into he was beat up by a 30-year-old black woman from Compton.
Alicia Jones is African-American. We don't know right now what the race of the 3 or 4 men are.
Right.
And so we'll find out. If you're wondering if someone can be discriminatory against others while being black, the answer is yes.
So now we ran with the story, the narrative of, okay, well, these guys are racist, so we're supposed to be against these guys. So now, oh, it's a black woman that doesn't like Mexicans that beat up this man. So I'm confused now. I don't know where to stand because I want to be against Trump supporters, but one of my people beat up a... But that's what the media does. Now that's another cry wolf. So now you see that story and it says, oh, well, these black people, they're not any better than us. Or we're better than them because I would never beat up a Mexican old man with a... You understand what I'm saying? And then the third story that blew up was the poor little girl that was killed in Houston, Texas. The story when it came out, it was a white man that drove up on a young mother and her children, and he began shooting in the car because he was racist. And then all of a sudden, that racist white man, as the story progressed, transformed into two black people, two black dudes. Bait and switch. Bait and switch. It starts off by saying, well, it was this is a result of racism. And then it turns into, oh, no, it was just a bunch of crazy black people that did it. So now when people see this in the media, it's now a cry wolf. Now when a big racist attack happens, it's going to be hard to get people on our side now because it's the bait and switch. So that's why I think it's important that we're actually allowed to ask these questions. Because right now, the narrative of the Jussie Smollett is it was two Trump supporters who happened to watch Empire. I mean, I have a lot of white friends, and most of them, 99% of them, have never heard of Empire. But, that's neither here nor there. But these two Trump supporters who watch Empire know exactly who this actor is, know what character he plays, knows his sexual orientation in real life, knows where he was staying, knew he was coming out of his apartment at 2 a.m. in the morning so that they could be waiting for him with a noose and with bleach so that they could attack him. Now, I hope for the sake of Jussie Smollett that this story is true. I hope for his sake it is true. But if it's not, it's another bait and switch. That's all I want to talk about on this episode of Dangerously Awkward. Thank you for joining me. Again, if you like what you heard, what you saw, go to my YouTube page, KJF Network. Like and subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram at Dangerously Awkward. Thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you next time.